So I started my career in branding and marketing, actually earning $5 a day at a fashion PR agency in Melbourne. I then went on to work for a number of different international branding consultancies, like Pearl Fisher and Design Bridge and Blue Marlin, to name a few. And I now head up the region, so Asia Pacific, Middle East and Africa for SGK. So for those of you that don't know, SGK is a global packaging and brand experience agency. We've got 1,800 people now in this region across 10 different countries. I'm very fortunate. I get to work with some of the world's most leading brands and brand owners to help them grow their businesses in this part of the world. So the likes of P&G, Unilever, Coca-Cola, Mondelez, Nike, to name a few. I think that for me, a huge turning point in my career was when I was actually back in 2012, and I was working for a branding consultancy in London, and they were really keen to explore the Asia region and invited me to go to Hong Kong and to Shanghai for 6 months just to be able to set up the agency. And I thought, why not, right? I was having tremendous amounts of fun in London, but it just sounded like such an adventure. And then naturally, 6 months turned into 2 years. But it really, that experience, I guess that fostered in me kind of a deep feeling of connection to this part of the world, and as well as I just love the complexity of this region. I then was years later working back in London again, and a headhunter approached me and said, you know, kind of, would you like the opportunity to go and work in a regional role in Singapore? And although I'd only ever been to the airport, I naturally said yes. It was a great opportunity to come back to this part of the world. So I think that one of the things that this initiative that you're doing is terrific, is that I've always benefited from having mentors, both mentors through my that have been organised through work, through a more formal means, but also kind of those that I've, I guess, attracted along the way. And likewise, I'm now in a position where I'm able to return that favour, and I have some terrific mentees. And then I guess the other aspect of my career journey that I would want to point out is that I have been very, very fortunate to have very senior female leaders at key points in my career journey. And I think that you know, for somebody that's been in the industry now for 25 plus years, maybe that's closer to 30, depending upon where you consider where I began from, that I've always known that I have a voice and that I can have a seat at the table. Actually, I can have the table if I want. So I think that that now I'm in such a fortunate position, running the region. 50% of my leadership team here in APAC is female, and for some really senior roles as well, so such as like the MD of Japan, or the commercial lead for Southeast Asia, and the head of creative studios for both Australia as well as Singapore. I think in terms of talking about the trends, it's important to consider the context, right? And we all had to mobilize really quickly, right? I think that for us in this region, we had 1,800 people that we needed to mobilize to be able to work from home. And in key markets like Malaysia and in India, where, you know, people were already set up with their laptops at home. And so, you know, it's been, that's certainly, you know, something that we've had to tackle as a team, that I'm enormously proud of, because of the way that all of our employees just got on with it, right? I think that we've all had to draw from our mental toughness and show true resilience, and it's just so remarkable. Like, I'm genuinely so proud. But I think that what it has shown us is that the need for connection, right? And we needed, as a leadership team, as managers, needed to be more empathetic than ever before. And I think that kind of in dealing with our employees, that's one thing, but it's the same for us in the way that we're engaging with our clients as well. So we've all created, I guess, found new ways to be able to come together, to be able to consult, to be able to collaborate, and to be able to connect. And for me, I think that the silver lining from the pandemic, it's only just starting to show itself, and I think that it's going to be revealing itself for many years to come. In terms of trends in this region, I think that anyone in my company, particularly our executive leadership team, hears how proud I am of this region that I represent. And I think that the power of Asia Pacific is one of the biggest trends. I think that the fundamental elements of globalization are now coming into question, right? And the pandemic accelerated some of that, the idea of the restructuring of global supply chains. And what we're seeing here now is the empowerment of regional and local teams, that there's so much more respect for the acceleration and the penetration of digital in this part of the world. And I think that in some respects, APAC is being held up as a benchmark of what the future could look like for some other regions. So the power of APAC would be my number one trend. The second one for me is all about speed. So yes, we all had to pivot off the back of the pandemic, but this was already happening, right? That this region works at breakneck speeds, especially if you consider us in comparison with the other regions. So I think that the sheer level of activity, some Korean companies and Chinese companies are introducing thousands of new products every single week. It's just awe-inspiring, really. And I think that what that does is put so much attention on being able to speed up to your ability to be able to get to market. So we're all experiencing shorter planning cycles than ever before. Our clients need to be faster and more responsive, and things like 11/11, and 12/12 now, and being able to just turn on a dime and just do that just with flawlessly. It's actually just incredible when you consider just the huge numbers, right? The volumes, but when you realise all that happened behind the scenes to be able to achieve that, it's remarkable. And of course, I would be surprised if anyone would speak about trends these days without actually talking about digital transformation. So obviously, the pandemic accelerated this again, but consumer buying habits are clearly shifting to digital. So what does that mean? Well, I guess people as well as our clients are actually looking for ways to be able to support new ways of presenting your packaging design online, and that entire brand experience online. In this era where we all have access to an extraordinary amount of information, understanding how to be able to build a point of view and understand perspective is actually really critical. Understanding the challenges that people are actually facing on the ground, in the channel, in the market, in the touch point, in their roles, understanding why the old rules no longer apply, just having a good grasp on what the true context is of what you're actually trying to do, whether it's the retail reality, the complexity of juggling multiple channels, but learning how to ask questions, understanding how to articulate challenges, building a big picture point of view. That's something that is a skill that genuinely sets people apart. So that would be the first one for me. I think that another skill, which it sounds really simple, but it's really, really important, is listening. Whether it's for a client meeting, whether it's an internal meeting, whether it's a performance review, whether it's in a pitch, just be present. And I know that people give a lot of airtime to mindfulness, but strangely, if you practice it in actual meetings, right? Your mind's drifting off, thinking about what you're doing afterwards. we are much better as people if we actually pay attention to what's going on around us. And I think that you can demonstrate that you're knowledgeable just by paying attention. It's a way of being able to show that you're committed. It's a way of being able to show that you're really engaged. I think that anytime you're invited to actually ask a question, it's remarkable how often people will just kind of gloss over that opportunity, like miss that opportunity to shine. And my team here in Asia certainly know that if anyone is being given the opportunity to be able to ask a question and nobody speaks, it's like one of my bugbears. I think that the other thing that is really important in terms of developing as a skill is kind of self-reliance or autonomy, and just having that work ethic. I guess maybe it is because I started my career from when I was 13 years old, but being able to take on your own personal development, bringing ideas for your own career path, not relying on kind of a career progression map, or for your line manager to be telling you. I think that that's something that is so critical in becoming a leader. Doing work experience, volunteering. I think that there are principles around just imagining if it was your own business, right? Acting like it's your own business. What would you do? And that's how you find those things that maybe other people will hesitate on. And when you can really step up when other people are kind of hesitating or falling back, I guess that's kind of when you'll really be remembered. So put your hand up. At the risk of sounding as though I'm oversimplifying, being clear about your own goals is it's so simple, but upon reflection, I think that those years where I've actually written down what I want to accomplish are those years that I've been most successful. And I think that just by articulating where you want to go is one thing, but actually, really spending time thinking about how you're going to get there. And off the back of that, you can't wait for the perfect conditions to be able to make that leap. There's no such thing as a perfect role or a perfect time. You've just got to take that jump. Don't shy away from situations at the risk of failing or falling short, and kind of really just having that self-belief. It's something that can be learnt. There's ways that you can build up that confidence. And it sounds funny, but anytime before I go into big presentation or a big kind of top to top meeting, I'll actually do Wonder Woman moves, like power moves. And it's true that they actually really work. It gives you endorphins, and endorphins help you improve in terms of the way. It doesn't make you a different person, right? You're not all of a sudden going to become uber charismatic if you're an introspective person. But what it does do is it just helps you breathe a bit more slowly, communicate a bit more clearly, and so it's a way of just being able to be your best self. And so just taking that time before any key meeting or interview to be able to give yourself, physically some more confidence is for me really key. I know it sounds silly, but it's true. The other thing that I would encourage everyone is to speak up on social and do your homework. And again, at the risk of sounding like I'm 100, when I first started my career, I had to go to the library to be able to research companies. I had to befriend receptionists and PAs to be able to get access to decision makers. And now it's such a level playing field, right? You're one click away from being connected with the most senior stakeholder in any organization. That's extraordinary. So when I'm interviewing people, first of all, I want to make sure that they've done their homework, right? If they ask me an intelligent question about my experience, then it shows that they're actually genuinely interested, engaged, prepared. It kind of speaks to all of the right things that you want in a candidate, right? But the other thing that I do before I interview anyone is I actually look at what they've said on LinkedIn or on WeChat. And so that tells me so much. So it can, you know, their tone of voice, the things that they respond to, their sense of humor, their level of professionalism, you know, kind of it can reveal so much. And so it's such a huge platform in so many ways. I would just encourage people to really embrace it.